Aisha had always dreamed of making it big in the city. She had left her small hometown months ago, eager to find success in a place where opportunities were endless. Lagos was a city that never slept, a place where ambition either made you or crushed you. After settling into a tiny apartment, she spent weeks observing the business scene, trying to figure out where she could thrive. It didn't take long to realize that hairstyling was one of the most lucrative businesses in town. Women from all over the city, from office workers to celebrities, relied on salons to keep them looking flawless. It was more than just grooming, it was a lifestyle, a statement of status, and a necessity. Luckily, Aisha was a skilled hairstylist. She had trained under one of the best in her hometown, and her hands could create intricate braids and styles that turned heads. Without wasting time, she rented a small shop in a high traffic area, hoping that her talent would be enough to attract clients. But Lagos was not kind to the weak. The competition was brutal. Clients weren't just looking for good hairstyles, they wanted speed and perfection. They wanted to walk in, get their hair done in record time, and walk out looking stunning. Other stylists in the area could finish 4 to 5 customers in a day. Aisha, despite her skill, could barely complete one. She was a perfectionist, but she was too slow. At first, some clients were patient. They praised her work but grumbled about the time it took. Eventually, they stopped coming altogether. Whenever she tried to convince someone to sit for her, they would laugh. Aisha's hands are too slow. If you want to get your hair done there, better bring a pillow and blanket. You'll be sleeping in that chair. She sat in her empty shop every day, watching other stylists raking money while she barely made enough to cover rent. The city that once seemed full of promise now felt like a cruel joke. She was drowning, and she had no idea how to save herself. Then one afternoon, her phone rang. It was Bisi, an old friend from her hometown. Aisha, how far? Bisi's voice was bright, full of energy. How's business? Aisha sighed heavily. My sister, I'm trying, but it's not easy. Customers say I'm too slow. Nobody wants to sit for me anymore. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then Bisi's voice lowered. Aisha, do you really think all those successful stylists are using only their hands? Aisha frowned. What do you mean? Bisi's voice became almost a whisper. Lagos is a battlefield. If you want to survive, you need an edge. I don't understand, Bisi sighed. Just trust me. If you're serious about your business, come to Ibadan immediately. I'll take you to someone who can help you. Aisha hesitated. Deep down, she knew she couldn't continue like this. She was desperate, and if there was a way to improve her speed and attract more customers, why not? Despite her doubts, she packed a small bag and traveled to Ibadan the next morning. Bisi was already waiting for her at the bus terminal. Without wasting time, she led Aisha through the city, past the bustling streets and into the outskirts. The further they walked, the quieter it became. Soon, they were walking through a deserted area, surrounded by abandoned buildings. Aisha's heart pounded. Bisi, where exactly are we going? Bisi didn't answer. She just kept walking until they reached an old rundown shop with no signboard. The air smelled of incense and something else. Something metallic, like blood. Bisi knocked 3 times. A rough voice from inside called, Enter! Aisha's body tensed. She stepped in. Inside, an old woman with piercing eyes sat in a dimly lit room, stirring something in a black clay pot. When she saw Aisha, she smiled. Welcome, my daughter. You seek success, don't you? Aisha swallowed hard. How did this woman know why she came? She nodded slowly. The old woman's smile widened. I have something for you. But first tell me, are you ready to do anything for success? Aisha hesitated. But then she thought about all the insults, the struggles, the shame of being known as the slowest hairstylist in Lagos. She took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, I'm ready. The woman stood up and went to a shelf. She pulled out a small black figurine carved like a human. Its eyes were hollow, and its fingers were long and thin, as if they were designed for weaving and twisting hair. She held it up. This is Ajaka, the spirit of speed and beauty. She will be your secret. Aisha stared at the figurine, both fascinated and terrified. The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. From the moment you touch a customer's hair, this spirit will put them to sleep. While they sleep, invisible hands will braid their hair for you. You will only need to move your fingers slightly, and the work will be done in minutes. When they wake up, their hair will be flawless. Aisha's mouth fell open. That's all? The old woman shook her head. Nothing comes for free, my child. Aisha felt a chill crawl down her spine. What do I have to do? The woman's eyes darkened. Every month, you must drop a strand of hair from one of your customers into a calabash at midnight. If you fail, the spirit will take its payment another way. Aisha didn't fully understand what that meant, but she was too eager to care. She agreed to the deal. When she returned to Lagos, she was no longer the struggling, slow hairdresser. She was filled with confidence, knowing that her life was about to change. But she didn't resume work immediately. First, she transformed her shop. She changed the decor, installed a sleek, modern glass door, one that allowed her to see outside but prevented outsiders from seeing in. Then she put up a bold sign, Aisha's Beauty Studio, the best in Lagos. To attract attention, she announced a special discount for the first set of customers. People were curious. Was this not the same Aisha who used to take hours for a single braid? But they decided to give her another chance. The first customer walked in, a young woman named Chika. She was prepared to spend the whole day in the chair as usual. Aisha took a deep breath, placed her hands on Chika's head, and instantly her eyes fluttered shut. She slumped into a deep sleep. Then it happened. Invisible hands emerged, moving at a terrifying speed. Braids twisted and locked into place as if by magic. In less than an hour, it was done. Aisha gently tapped Chika's shoulder. Chika yawned, stretched, and looked into the mirror. She froze. You're done? She gasped. This is beautiful, and I feel so refreshed. Aisha smiled. That's how we do it now. And that was the beginning of her reign as the fastest hairstylist in Lagos. But what she didn't know was that her gift came with a price, one she would soon be forced to pay. Lagos moved fast, but Aisha moved faster. Word spread like wildfire. In just a few weeks, her salon transformed from a forgotten corner shop to the most sought-after hair studio in the city. Social media buzzed with praise, and influencers raved about the miracle hands of Aisha. She's faster than anyone in Lagos. You won't believe how flawless your braids will be. And the best part, you feel so refreshed after. Women lined up outside her shop from sunrise to sunset, desperate for an appointment. Celebrities, socialites, and even business moguls all came seeking the magic touch of Aisha's hands. And true to the old woman's words, it worked perfectly. The moment Aisha placed her fingers on a customer's scalp, they slipped into a deep, dreamless sleep. The invisible hands, Ajaka's hands, emerged from the shadows, weaving through the strands with supernatural speed. Braids, cornrows, locks, weaves. Each style was completed in record time, flawless as if crafted by spirits. Clients woke up feeling strangely refreshed, with no recollection of the eerie silence that had filled the salon as the work was being done. Aisha basked in the success, money flowed in like never before. She bought the latest designer outfits, upgraded her apartment, and even hired 2 assistants, though they were merely for show. She was the only one who could perform the miracle. But in all her success, she forgot one thing. She forgot the calabash. The first sign of trouble came one humid night. Aisha had just locked up the salon and was counting her earnings when the lights flickered. The air in the shop grew thick, suffocating, as if something unseen had slipped into the room. Then she heard it, a whisper. At first, it was barely audible, like wind rushing through an empty corridor. Then it grew louder, curling around her ears. "You did not pay us." Aisha's breath hitched. The shadows in the room shifted unnaturally, stretching toward her. Her hands trembled as she backed away. Then, as suddenly as it came, the presence vanished. The lights stopped flickering. The salon returned to normal. Aisha exhaled shakily. Maybe it was just her imagination. Maybe she was tired. She forced a laugh. "I beg, I need sleep." She locked up, left the shop, and pushed the incident to the back of her mind. But the next day, the whispers returned, and this time they did not come alone. It was a bright Saturday morning when Tolu, a regular client, walked into Aisha's salon. She was a businesswoman, always in a hurry, always demanding perfection. Aisha greeted her with her usual confident smile. "You know you're in the right place." Tolu chuckled. "I trust you. Just give me my usual style." Aisha placed her hands on Tolu's scalp. As expected, Tolu's eyes fluttered shut, and she slumped forward, lost in a deep sleep. But something was different this time. As the invisible hands worked, a thick silence settled in the salon, heavier than usual. The air grew colder. Aisha felt an unsettling pressure in her chest, as though something unseen was watching her. She swallowed hard and glanced at the mirror, and that was when she saw it. A shadowy figure stood behind her reflection, its face twisted, its hollow eyes locked onto hers. Its mouth moved, though no words escaped, only a whispering sound that wrapped around the salon like smoke. Then the whisper turned into a single chilling sentence. "You did not pay us." Aisha gasped and yanked her hands away from Tolu's head. The invisible hands vanished, the salon lights flickering violently. Tolu's body jerked and then silence. For a heart-stopping moment, she didn't move. Aisha nudged her. "Tolu?" No response. Her throat tightened. "Tolu, wake up!" Nothing. Then suddenly Tolu's head snapped up, her eyes wide open. But they weren't her eyes anymore. They were pitch black. "You did not pay us," the voice rasped from Tolu's mouth, though it was not her voice. It was layered, inhuman. Aisha stumbled backward. What? What's happening? Tolu stood, her body moving unnaturally, like a puppet controlled by invisible strings. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her mouth stretching into an eerie grin. The mirrors cracked, the lights burst, the shadows in the room twisted violently. Then Tolu collapsed. Aisha stood frozen, her heartbeat thundering in her chest. Seconds passed, then minutes. Finally, Tolu groaned, rubbing her temples. Ah, my head is spinning. Aisha forced a nervous smile. You, you okay? Tolu blinked, confused. Of course. Are we done? She turned to the mirror, gasping in delight. Wow, this is perfect. Aisha stared in horror. Did, did Tolu not remember anything? The woman handed her cash and left, completely oblivious to what had just happened. Aisha's hands trembled. She had made a terrible mistake. She had forgotten to pay the spirits. And now they were coming to collect. That night, Aisha rushed home and tore through her bag, searching for the black figurine. There it was, Ajaka, the spirit of speed and beauty. Its hollow eyes seemed to glare at her. She had to fix this. She had to make the offering. With shaky hands, she grabbed a strand of hair from the day's work, placed it in a small envelope, and stepped outside. The city was alive, but she barely noticed. She had only one destination, the lagoon, where the spirits were said to be strongest. She reached the water's edge, her heart beat a wild drum. Carefully, she opened the envelope and let the strand of hair drop into the waves. The water swallowed it whole. She exhaled in relief. It's done. But the whispers did not stop. In fact, they grew louder. Too late. The shadows along the shore twisted unnaturally. The water bubbled. Something moved beneath the surface, rising, rising. Aisha turned and ran. She didn't stop until she reached her apartment, slamming the door shut behind her. But the nightmare had only just begun. The next morning, the city was in shock. A customer who had visited Aisha's salon the previous day, Tolu, had been found dead in her home. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just dead. Aisha felt the blood drain from her face. That was when she realized the truth. She had missed the payment, and now the spirits were collecting their due. In a far worse way, more clients began to disappear. Each one had visited her salon the day before. Each one had fallen asleep under her hands. Aisha stopped working. She locked herself inside her apartment, refusing to see anyone. But the whispers followed her. You did not pay us. Your debt must be settled. We are coming. The shadows in her room moved at night. The mirrors no longer showed her reflection. And then, one evening, she heard the door creak open, even though she had locked it. A cold wind rushed inside. The lights flickered. A sudden pain tore through Aisha's hands. She gasped, looking down. Her fingers were twisting, stretching unnaturally. Her fingernails darkened completely, turning into something hard and cracked like burned wood. She screamed, but no sound came out, and from the darkness, dozens of hands emerged. Long, thin fingers made for weaving, twisting, braiding. They reached for her. Aisha screamed, and then Lagos never saw her again. Some said she fled, shamed by her downfall. Others whispered that she had been taken, swallowed by the spirits who had once given her power. Her salon remained abandoned, untouched. Customers whispered about her sudden disappearance, about the strange things that happened in her shop. but no one dared to take over her space. Because even now, late at night, if you walk past Aisha's beauty studio, you can still hear the whispers. You did not pay us. Moral of the story: Lagos rewards ambition, but nothing comes without a price. Shortcuts can make you rich, but the debt you owe may cost more than you can pay. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. Give the story a thumbs up and please share the story out with your loved ones. Also, subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now until I bring another story your way.